All right, we'll start our conversation now. And again, we are joined here by some folks from the Stop Free Keene movement. In the studio with us here this morning, I have Andrea Whitcomb, Josh Erickson, and Alan Givitz. And I want to thank you three for coming in and joining us here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And, the Stop Free Keene movement, a fairly new movement. You guys haven't been around that long, so to speak. So I'm not quite sure, Alan, or whoever may kind of talk and maybe just give us a quick synopsis of the history of your group.
Okay. Well, Stop Free Keene, there had been...
Mic, please.
You got to get, by the microphone there.
There were several groups that were created before Stop Free Keene in opposition to the movement of the Free State Project coming into New Hampshire, or generally into Keene. Those groups fizzled out. I was member of one of them prior. So then we created the Stop Free Keene group and started doing a lot of history research on members of the Free State Project, members of the local Free Keene group. The group is created to bring awareness to the citizens, residents of the city of Keene, to let them know what activities and stuff that's been going on, stuff that's not in the benefit to our city. What else?
And is there, kind of do you have a mission statement or kind of just an overall statement that you guys kind of abide to and through your group?
Basically, it's to bring attention to the destructive and we feel sometimes even dangerous behavior of Free Keene.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now, one of the guests we have here, and I just want to make everyone aware who's with us, Alan. Alan was one of the parking enforcement officers who did, actually, the only one, the one that resigned because you felt, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe you can explain the situation that you had being a parking enforcement officer and how your life kind of changed a little bit and where it is now.
Yeah, so let me just first start off by saying how I kind of got into it.
Okay.
When I came back from overseas from serving a 22-month deployment to Iraq, my wife was currently going to college at Keene State. So she got an apartment here. We moved to the area. She had 2 years left to go in her college before she got her degree. So I got a job working for the Department of Corrections. And after 8 years of working third shift and working 3 out of 4 weekends for my family, I decided it was best to move on. So I left a good paying job with good benefits, New Hampshire retirement system, and I took on the parking job, which at the time was part-time. Mm-hmm. Didn't have the benefits that I had at the jail, but I did that for my family so I could spend time with my family, have the evenings off, the weekends off. I started that in September of 2012. For the first 3 months, it was great. I was paid to, walk around the city. Yes, a big part of it was writing tickets, unfortunately. That's the main part of the job. But the other good thing that I liked about the job was I was able to walk around the city, to get to know the city, get to know the people in the community, get to meet a lot of the city workers who, by the way, are hardworking city workers that just want to provide a safe, nice, clean community for the citizens. And, honestly, it was a good job. And then around December, these guys started showing up, and my whole world sort of got turned upside down. It started off, we were sort of warned about them. I known about the group from working at the jail and stuff like that and reading newspapers and listening to the radio. And we were sort of warned about them, but I don't think I was prepared for how far they were going to go. It started off, they started off nice and trying to make quiet conversation with you, trying to get you to talk to them. The only thing that we were told from the city was to basically just ignore them and they would go away.
Yep.
Well, after about a few months, that wasn't happening. We were telling the city that this isn't happening. Their antics started to ramp up their tactics, I guess you would say. And, they would find out through casual conversation or maybe social media or, Googling your name or whatever, sort of what things you were interested in, sort of finding out about your life. Like they found out, that I go to church. They found out that I'm a veteran. They found out that I'm a husband and a father. And they would start to use those little things and sort of kind of get at you to try to get reactions out of you. These people would literally follow us all day, every day during our work schedule. Even they'd sit there and watch us while we were on our breaks. If we would get in our car and go to a different part of the city, they would be either on bikes or they would get in their cars and follow us around the cities. They started to get to the point where it started to get very uncomfortable, calling us names, cowards, thief. I was actually called a racist because of my veteran status, told that I condone the droning of brown babies. And that stung for me. I'm proud of my military status. I don't condone violence, but I understand that there's a reason why we have men and women serving in the military, and that's to protect people and their freedoms here in the United States and across the world. And I'm proud of that status, but I sure as heck didn't condone the droning of any brown babies or anything like that. So that was a big stinger for me. For me, it really started to get personal. They started to, bring up my wife, my kids. One of them followed me on my day off, and when I reported it, the response I got was kind of disheartening. The response I got was, well, don't go downtown on your day off.
Now, who did you report that to?
I reported it to the police department, the city manager knew about it, the city attorney knew about it, and I wasn't happy about it. And one of the final straws for me really was when I was in Robin Hood Park, no pun intended, for a birthday party with a couple families, friends of ours. And it just so happened that they showed up, the whole group. I noticed them, and I said, well, I'm just going to ignore them. They're going to ignore me. We're on the other side of the park. Well, when it came down to my family and another friend's family, they noticed me. And one of them was standing across the way, kind of looking at me, staring at me, talking on a cell phone. And another one, I don't know if people are familiar with Robin Hood Park, but there's kind of like a gazebo and some picnic tables. Well, that's where we were. And we decided that, well, all right, well, now it's time to leave because they're kind of, antagonizing us, watching us for whatever reason, I don't know. So as I'm putting my family in the car, my wife and my 2 children, about 10 feet away from us on a hill, looking down on us, was another one of the individuals just staring at us and just watching us. And in all honesty, the biggest reason I left was because I felt like there was no end in sight to this. There was no relief. There was no nothing. When it's on your job, that's one thing. You kind of deal with it. But when it starts boiling over into your personal time, your time off, your family, then as a husband and a father, I have a duty to protect my family. And I thought the best situation at that point was to just walk away and find more different employment.
So that was obviously then one of the reasons why you wanted to get involved here with the Stop Free Keene movement. Then,
yeah, I told the girls, the other parking enforcement officers, who I became good friends with. They're really nice people. Nobody likes to really write somebody a ticket and then have their car towed. It's not fun to anybody. That's part of the job. And these women are out there every day. They're in the elements, the rain, the snow, the sleet, the hot weather during the summer, and they're constantly being followed by these men. Most of these people are men that are following these women around, following them down the alleyways, into the parking garages. And when I left, I said, I don't work for the city anymore. I'm not going to be tied to not being able to speak because they're told they can't speak. They can't speak to the media. They can't speak to anybody outside of the city. So I said, if sharing our story, my story, can help you guys, then that's what I'm going to do. And it's not just the parking enforcement officers that are getting, followed and harassed by these people. I mean, the people that, mow the lawns and clean the, up the streets downtown, Main Street, they're getting harassed. Crossing guards are getting harassed. So if sharing my story can help this group or these people in any way, these city employees and the private citizens, then that's what I was willing to do.
Now, Josh, what about you? What's your story and your involvement with the Stop Free Keene movement, and why did you get involved in this?
Well, I'm actually not originally from Keene. I'm from Concord. I moved here about 6 years ago to be with my wife. I had actually had my attention drawn to them a few years before I moved to Keene because I was reading articles about extremist groups like the Sovereign Citizens and, and the Free Men and stuff. And I noticed that a lot of people in Keene were calling themselves that. So it just kind of stuck in the back of my mind. I eventually moved to Keene. I actually ended up moving across the street from the Keene Activist Center or the Shire Free Church or whatever they're calling it today. And I started noticing the things I was reading online were happening across the street. It was just, I guess you could say the biggest concern for me was just extremism. I mean, I started looking at their website to see what they were about, and I started noticing like references to the sovereign citizens movement, to the free man on the land movement, just all these really extreme anti-government groups, and it had me a bit concerned. So, I was kind of isolated in that concern, it seemed, until I actually started working at the college, and I met Andrea, who I found out had the same concerns that I did. That's how I got involved.
So, okay, very good. And Andrea, so, in your story a little bit kind of similar. You're from Keene, are you from Keene?
Yes, I'm from Keene.
So, and what about you? I mean, is this something that you had seen the Free Staters around, and finally it got to the point where you felt you wanted to do something more?
Well, I had heard about the Free Staters through friends, originally about the big motorhome that they had parked on the streets in front of people's homes. And a couple of years ago, Halloween, one of my youngest children, he was 10 at the time, came home from trick-or-treating and handed me a bunch of postcards that he found in these brown paper bags that were in his trick-or-treat bag that was handed to him. And they were advertisement for Free Keene and the literature information on joining Free Keene and the whole anti-government, their whole liberty thing. And I was quite livid at that. These are children. They're being used. They're being sucked in as targets for this. They're not at an age to understand it. Some of the trick-or-treaters can't even read. So handing them this sort of thing was not an appropriate method of getting information out. So I went on to their webpage and spoke my piece about it. Basically, I was told that why was I allowing my children to go out and beg candy from people, and other comments regarding that sort of thing.
Right.
And then shortly later from that, my daughter came home from the middle school, which it was across the street on Washington Street, and told me how they were out front of the middle school handing out information to middle school children. And that's when I said, this is not right. You want to have a movement, that's fine. Go after adults, people that are educated in the government or educated in what's going on. But targeting other people's children is not right. We have, as parents, have a right to protect our children, and we do have a right to want to know what they can view and what they can't view until they're of an age of understanding. So that's when I found another web group that was created. It was originally called Free Keene from the Free State Project, and I joined that group. That group at the time was open to the public for all comments. It was kind of a group started to maybe come to a common understanding with the Keene residents against Free Keene and the Free Keene people to kind of say, this is what we don't like what you're doing, and let them come back and tell us, well, this is why we're doing it, and so forth. But what happened is as soon as somebody would post a grievance on an activity that they were doing, 4 or 5 Free State people or Free Keeners or groupies, I call them, that are neither one but they support them, would jump on and it would become an attack. So people stopped wanting to comment, wanted to stop telling their issues, because you become a target, you get bullied, you get intimidated if you speak your mind. So I created Stop Free Keene, and I made that page open to be read so they can see what our concerns and issues are, but I closed it to comments to only group members, and that's so that people are free to comment without being bullied. Josh?
I think it's important to mention that we're all kind of nervous about doing this today because of the backlash we're expecting to receive.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, one of the reasons if you're not allowing comments, on your Facebook page is that would seem to be the case, that you've gotten some comments that haven't, been very nice, I assume then?
Exactly.
Yeah. Chris,
I just the funky thing about all this is that, and Mr. Cleveland wrote a letter to the editor this week, and it makes it sound in the letter that it's reversed than what you're saying, and clearly you're not in agreement with that letter, I would guess.
Not at all.
No.
I feel like the letter was a little bit disingenuous. I mean, we have posted on the website examples of what happens when you try to open a quote-unquote dialogue with Free Keene and its supporters. You basically get called names like, statist. I mean, I've been called everything from fascist, I've been called everything from a dirty commie to someone who condones violence because of my political beliefs. It's vicious. It's really vicious.
Well, you guys had a video that was actually Free Keene took the video, but you guys took it and showed what you were doing a silent
Silent protest.
silent protest, and the intimidation of others talking to you was pretty interesting. You know that I don't know who is it Derek or
It was that was
I don't
That was Garrett, I believe.
Garrett,
Garrett.
Yes.
yeah I think that somebody was just in that video was just like constantly throwing
Yeah, he delivered a monologue
odd
to
comments.
Yeah, it was a monologue, a 45-minute monologue to our back, full of basically loaded language
Yeah.
and baiting questions.
Are you guys surprised by your growth?
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We originally started out as just a handful of people, and suddenly, we break 100 people. We break, 500 people.
And those aren't just likes; those are people that want to be a part of your group, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, where are you today?
1,100 and something.
When I checked this morning, I think it was actually 1,300.
1,300.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I say I'm in a disagreement with them on this one point? I'm not surprised, and the reason being is because when you deal with a group like this, they're very intimidating. When there's 4 or 5 of them around you, and these people, they're calculated. They're not dumb. They're very intelligent in how they attack you. So I'm not surprised in the large amount of numbers because there's strength in numbers. When you see that people have a common goal, a common interest in what you have, and that's basically, in your eyes, making the community a great place for everybody to live and to raise their children, to go to school, to, go to college. You start to see that there's people out there that think like you, then, well, you want to get involved because you realize that there's going to be people there to back you up and to I guess basically help protect you, whether it's through social media or, on the streets or whatever the case may be. So I'm really not surprised about that. I'm actually pleased that there's so many people in the community that think the same way we do and are happy to help achieve a certain common goal.
Are you guys surprised about the national recognition you guys are getting? I mean,
Yeah.
you had the New York Times come in and
Yes.
do an article.
That's the last thing I expected to happen with this was the New York Times to show up and ask for our story. We figured it'd just be kind of a local thing. Maybe we get some local notoriety, but not that, not at all.
Yeah.
It's beginning to get a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
With the messages from news sources that I've been getting. I haven't replied back to the one in Boston. There's a news network program that has contacted me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take a break here this morning, and on Sound Off, I'm talking this morning on the Stop Free Keene movement with Andrea Whitcomb, Josh Erickson, and Alan Givitz. And we'll take a break. We'll be right back in a few moments on AM 1290 and FM 107.5 and WKBKRadio.com. A little later on in the program, we'll have open phone lines 11 to 12. But right now, we'll continue our conversation with the Stop Free Keene movement. We are joined in the studio by Andrea Whitcomb, Josh Erickson, and Alan Givitz from the movement. And again, I want to thank you very much for coming in and talking to us here this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
And one quick thing, too, is before, because we've got some phone calls, we want to get to phone calls, but we were talking off air, and you guys actually are going to have a new name for your movement soon? Is that what I had
Yes.
overheard?
Yes.
And what is that going to be? Or you haven't thought of it yet?
It's not really a new movement.
Or not a new movement, but a new name for the movement?
It's Stop Free Keene. It's just going to be kind of a project underneath it. It's called the Monadnock Community Coalition.
Oh, cool.
We actually have our first project coming up on the 7th and 8th of June. We're going to be repainting the gazebo in the Central Square.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
All right. Very
cool.
good. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go to the phone lines here on Sound Off this morning and go to the first call. Thanks for calling. Go right ahead.
Yes, good morning. I'd like to talk about an incident that happened in February of this year. There is a tow truck driver that threatened one of the Free Keene bloggers, Emerson Towing.
Sure, yep.
All three of your guests this morning stated that they supported this behavior. I was wondering if I could get their thoughts on that.
All right. That was an incident in February, and I did see the video on that. And, do you guys want to comment on that at all, or?
Well, I don't recall saying we supported violence or inflicting violence on others. I believe that caller was James Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. Sounded like him. From my understanding, is Graham admitted to antagonizing the driver. I'm not going to say what he called him on radio because it's kind of vulgar. and I'm not excusing what the driver did either, but I think on both sides of this, the scenario, both were at fault, and I think it just kind of got blown out of proportion.
I'm confused though. What does it have to do with you guys? You know what I'm saying?
I have no idea.
If it's Emerson Towing,
I think I know. We actually showed support for Emerson's because Free Keene and their supporters initiated a smear campaign against the company, basically trying to get them to lose their city contract, calling them at all hours of the night, putting fake reviews on their review sites, basically saying, "Oh, this company condones violence. They're monsters, whatever it is." Wow. So us saying that's not right, even though what he did wasn't right either. I think that put us on the radar for that.
Okay, so it's all right, very good. And we do have another phone call. All right, so let's go to the phone lines. And thanks for calling Sound Off. And apparently they are not there. Hey, if you want to call with your comments and questions here, we are with the Stop Free Keene movement. Again, Andrea Whitcomb, Josh Erickson, and Alan Givitz. And give us a call at 357-1290, or you can always email us at gpregent@wkbkradio.com. And we do have a phone call, so we'll go right to the phone lines. Thanks for calling. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Kyle Stetson. I'm friends with Andrea and Alan and all those people, and I'm a very active supporter of all of them. And I just wanted to say, I grew up with Alan. He was a youth leader for me, and it was very upsetting to me when I saw he was posting on Facebook all these things talking about, these people are harassing him and bothering him, and these people started personally attacking my family because they're related to someone who worked with the city. And so we started doing activism to be anti-Free Keene in their movement. And then these people started putting up, signs saying the Free Keeners, one of them, at one point we were downtown, he was holding up a sign saying one of my family members supported murder and things like that. It was just, the whole situation to me is very upsetting and very disheartening to see these people behave like that. And I'm just sick and tired of these people attacking us and behaving so negatively all the time.
And Kyle, are you a member of the Stop Free Keene movement?
I'm not a member, but I'm a huge supporter of everything Andrea and Alan and Josh are doing. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. Good to hear from you, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it here this morning. And again, if you have a comment or question, you can give us a call at 357-1290 or email us at gpregent@wkbkradio.com. Another phone call here this morning, so we'll go to the phone lines again. Thanks for calling. Go right ahead. Hello. Hello, are you there? There is no one there. All right. Well, just a reminder also, too, we do broadcast on a delay. And I know sometimes that's kind of an odd thing, but we do have a 20-second delay that we broadcast on. So if you do want to call into the program, it's best not to listen to your radio at all because
turn it down.
Yeah, turn it down or just turn it off and just listen to us right through the phone, and you'll be able to hear what we're saying through the phone.
Last thing you want to do is hear Chris Coates' stereo. And delayed.
All right, so we do have another phone call here. We got another phone call. We'll go to the phone lines. Thanks for calling. Go right ahead.
Hi. I've been reading through the posts on the Stop Free Keene page as well as the Free Keeners blogs. And, I just want to say that I've seen many instances of laws being broken and bragged about by the Free Keeners. Most recently is, the littering of the chalk. They've been chalking a lot, and they've been throwing their chalk away. They've got cigarette butts everywhere. It's become to the point where we go into the common, and it's dirty. It's not the beautiful common that it used to be that Keene stood out for. And you go down there, and there's, a lot of the Free Keeners down there. They're smoking marijuana. They're publicly drinking. And it's not a place where you feel like you can bring your children anymore.
Okay.
And, so, I as far as the Free State Project goes, I'm a homesteader myself. And a lot of what the Free State Project stands for, I can identify with, but this little Free Keene pod seems like it's more a lot of stunts and law breaking. I was part of the silent protest, and I had a sign that said, that Ian feels that heroin should be legal, and he admitted it. He said heroin should be legal, and these are huge problems. This isn't the typical marijuana we're talking about. They think that all drugs should be legal.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it here this morning. And again, if you have a comment or question, you can give us a call, 357-1290, or email us at gpreach@wkbkradio.com. We're talking to the Stop Free Keene movement folks this morning, and we've got another phone call, so we will go right to the phones. Thanks for calling. Go right ahead.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you this morning?
Good. First of all, I'd like to thank Alan for his services. You know, it's being Memorial Day and all, and
I agree.
he should be recognized.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the graffiti down in Keene is terrible. I mean, not only is it on the sidewalks, it's on our monuments down there, and I see that it's been washed off, but it's not coming off. I mean, that's almost a form of vandalism. I'm wondering what the city of Keene is doing about this.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I think the city's view on chalking, more or less, is that it's not a permanent disfigurement, so they really, I don't know if they really can do much, so to speak. I mean, a lot of folks may not like the looks of it, and that's one of the things I know that you guys have been doing is kind of going around and trying to wash off some of the chalk on the streets. Is that correct?
Yes, we have. And actually, yesterday, one of our members of Stop Free Keene was driving through downtown, and they were chalking Central Square again. But not only that, they were writing up and down the railings of the gazebo. They've written on the cannon. And
What do you mean? You mean with chalk?
With chalk.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a surface that is not a sidewalk. It's been written on the floor of the gazebo, which will not wash off unless somebody goes to wash it off. Also, our wonderful statue that sits at the top of the square has been defaced on the back with a peace symbol that will not come off. That will be
Really?
one of our projects to find a local masonry or someone that can help us get that cleaned and removed.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, caller. I appreciate your call here this morning.
The question he asked was, what is the city of Keene doing? I mean, chalking's one thing, like you said.
Right.
Tagging is a whole different matter.
Yeah, that's
harder because you actually have to. I mean, a few years back, they were able to track and find some tagging that was similar in different places and nail the person who was from Burlington, Vermont, who actually came down here on a weekend, but it took a lot of investigation work. So if somebody's tagging, it's not always.
Yeah, and that's a different issue, and we've had that problem, with the North Bridge. Also, a lot of graffiti on the North Bridge.
Yeah.
But it can come off, and it takes a little bit, but it will come off eventually. We've got another phone call here this morning, and we'll go right to the phone lines. Thanks for calling Sound Off. Go right ahead.
Hey, good morning, Greg and Chris. And
Hey, Steve.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just, I don't know why. I understand they have a political point of view, and most people, when they go into the square, hold up foam signs, and then they go home afterwards, and they pick up after themselves. But these people seem to be making a point that we shouldn't have public property because it gets abused, and then they prove their own point by just sort of overwhelming others who would like to share, as they dismissively call it, the commons. That's for everybody, that area, and granted they're not using spray paint, but I really would call on the Free Staters to show some respect for the host community. Make your political points, hold your signs up, make some noise, but then go home afterwards and don't deface the statue or the gazebo or the cannons or any other artifacts in Central Square. I'd like to hear from Mr. Freeman. Maybe he could assure us in the host community. We would like a little respect. We've been bent over backwards for these people, and make your point, but also contribute to the community. Don't be like a cancer cell and continually detract. My point. Thank you for listening.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it here this morning. And all right, so we got time for one more call, and then we'll finish up and let you guys kind of have the last word and let people know how they can get involved. But we do have another phone call here this morning, so to the phone lines we go. Thanks for calling Sound Off. Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think you're. First of all, to say I don't necessarily agree or disagree with anything you're saying. I think it's great that you have an opinion. But a lot of your indignation is very convenient. You're condemning some of the Free Staters because they say heroin should be legal. So does the superintendent of your county jail. I don't hear the same indignation for him. You talk about how the square is no longer a place you can bring your family. Well, I can't bring my family past the skate park when that was the gem of Keens downtown there, because of the swearing and the spitting and the drinking and the drugs and the cigarette butts. So where was the great indignation to clean that up? And so it's real convenient when you have this little group that everybody dislikes, because they, in some ways, they shine the light of truth on some of the abuses of power that were there. I don't necessarily agree with their drug stance, but I do agree with the way they've held some of the Keene officials' feet to the fire. So let's have some fair time, and let's see you criticize some of the institutions that you're so anxious to preserve.
All right. Well, thank you very much, caller. Appreciate the call here this morning and getting all kinds of views. And you guys want to respond to that a little bit? And saying you're kind of picking your battles just for convenience.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, when he says, what was it, trying to preserve institutions or protect them?
Yeah, I think obviously his point is that there's been other instances in the city over the years of things that probably shouldn't be going on, and wondering why a group wasn't formed, I guess, to go against that, rather than now there's a group being formed against the Free Staters.
Well, he's going to have to specify what incident that was. I mean, if some group was coming into your town and harassing, well, I'm sorry, that's a legal term, bullying your city employees, if they were writing chalk all over the walls, consuming drugs in public, consuming alcohol in public, basically just becoming the biggest nuisance possible, wouldn't you form a group to do something about that? I mean, I understand the skate park issue. Yeah, that was an issue. I agreed with that. When I lived in that part of the neighborhood, that was horrible. I hated walking past there with my wife, because I was always under the assumption that something was going to go down. Either I was going to get called something, or someone was going to, come at me. But
so I guess really the basic crux is that you feel this is, there's obviously been other serious issues going on, but to you folks, this is a fairly serious issue that needs to be addressed. So that's why you got together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't the skate park an issue, and this is a movement?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, actually, I should probably thank the caller for bringing that to our attention, because maybe we could add that to the agenda to take care of, like with the gazebo.
Yeah. Well, we've got just a few minutes left here, so I want to give you guys an opportunity. If we've had a lot of phone calls, people interested in this, maybe if just to give us some contact information. You have a web, or do you have a web page or just a Facebook page?
No, actually, it's stopfreekeene.com.
Okay.
And we do have a Facebook group, but we asked people to go to facebook.com/groups/stopfreekeene. A Free Keene supporter or member actually established a fake page to mock us and take what we say out of context in order to, smear us, I guess you could say.
Okay, so you got to make sure then, I guess, you get the right Facebook page. Now, also too, now if someone, do you have any events, protests, silent protests, or whatever planned? Anything in the future here?
We do have the gazebo cleanup project that we're doing. It's a June 7th and 8th. We're going to be repainting, I believe, the steps and the floor of the gazebo. And we'll probably end up doing a cleanup of the square in general. We actually adopted a couple of areas in town through the Spirit of Place program. We adopted the Central Square area, downtown, River Street, and actually Leverett Street. And we're going to be cleaning them up at least once a month or so.
Okay. All right. Very good. And so if people are interested, there's definitely many ways they can get a hold of you. They can go to the Facebook page and go there. And also, too, I assume then that even though I'm not a super expert on Facebook, but if there's no comments, but people can still message you. Is that how it works? So if someone, that's kind of more a private kind of email-ish communication on Facebook, but that still is, they can do that?
Yes, if they go to the web group, the Stop Free Keene web group, and they click on the member button, they can pull up the admins, and then they can go ahead and message any of the admins on the group, and we will definitely get back to them and get them added, or they can just click add to join the group.
Okay. All right. Very good. So then they can go to the you can go to the Facebook page, you can go to your website and information like that. And again, the gazebo cleanup is going to be June 7th and 8th?
Yes.
And what time does that start?
I believe it's going to start, 9 o'clock,
About
we
9
said?
o'clock.
About 9 o'clock.
Okay. And do people need to bring paint, or is that going to be supplied?
We are going to be working on getting some local businesses to donate, and then we will put their names in the PR.
Sure. Okay.
Regarding that, yes.
Well, very good. Well, I want to thank Andrea Whitcomb, Josh Erickson, and Alan Givitz for coming in here and talking to us about the Stop Free Keene movement. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, very good. And we're going to take a break on Sound Off with Chris Coates and myself, Greg Pregent, here on AM 1290 and FM 107.5 and WKBKradio.com. This program brought to you by Elm City Bagels and Deli. Bagels, soups, and salads, lunch goodies, platters, gluten-free options on West Street in Keene. Sound Off. We'll be right back. So, all right, before we get into further discussions, we do have a phone call, so we'll go right to the phone. Thanks for calling Sound Off. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Ian Freeman here with FreeKeene.com. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, Ian.
Just splendid. I would have liked to have called in last hour, but you closed the phone, so I figured I'd call now.
That is not true. We did not close the phones, Ian. The phones were open. We took phone calls.
You had said one more call in that hour, and then you took one more call.
Oh, you're saying the hour came to a close, and we took one more call. Yeah.
We did keep it open the whole hour.
Yeah, we probably had about 10 calls.
Yeah, so please, don't put words in my mouth.
Said there was one more call. I thought that meant there was one more call for the hour.
That's all right. That's cool, though. What's up?
So the cigarette butts allegation, it sounded like there was a suggestion. For listeners just tuning in, you had some members of a group called Stop Free Keene on in the last hour, and there was an allegation. I don't remember if it was a caller or one of the guests in the studio who suggested that people from Free Keene were littering cigarette butts in Central Square, which is a ridiculous claim, and there's no evidence for it. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary, where Robin Hooder Graham Colson was regularly cleaning up. He was actually picking up trash after his Robin Hooding shifts. Garrett Ian and James Cleveland, also two of the Robin Hooders, were part of, I think it was called Green Keene, which was sort of a kind of a cleanup event that happened several weeks ago.
Okay.
And they even have the T-shirts from that. So the evidence is to the contrary, and that brings me to a larger point that people who aren't part of Free Keene are constantly getting blamed, or Free Keene rather, the blog and the members of that blog are getting blamed for things that other people are doing that are not actually part of Free Keene. So,
Ian, just a quick thing. I think I did say at one point that some tagging that's gone on in the monument down there, I talked about how there was an individual, not even from Keene, that was actually arrested some time ago that did some tagging in Keene, and that, so we weren't pinpointing, and tagging is tagging. You don't know who does it until you find who does it.
Sure. Oh, and I wasn't indicting you, but some of the people involved in Stop Free Keene have made suggestions like this. And so one example would have been when the DEA was raiding Fat Stuff a couple weeks ago. There were some of the liberty activists, including myself and Garrett, were out there, and Garrett had some chalk with him. And usually when Garrett's chalking, it's open season. Anybody that wants to come up and grab a piece of chalk is usually welcome to do that. And in a situation where you have an armed criminal gang that's raiding a local peaceful business and stealing their products, it's inevitable that some people are going to be upset about that. It's been my observation that if Free Keene participants are chalking, they are very usually positive messages, things like smiley faces and nice, pleasant things. But in that particular case, there were some folks who are not participants in Stop Free Keene and not members of the larger liberty movement or the Free State Project who came along and expressed their frustration with chalk. One or two of those messages was kind of vulgar, and so those chalkings were there at the end of the day, and there were some posts on Stop Free Keene about how vulgar the Free Keeners supposedly are, when in point of fact it was no one involved with Free Keene who chalked those messages. So there's a lot of this sort of collectivizing where Free Keene, which is nothing more than a blog site, gets blamed. It's talked about as though Free Keene is doing something. Free Keene doesn't do anything. It just serves web pages to people, and it's a place where individuals who should be held responsible for their actions individually are able to express themselves, are able to talk about things happening in the community, report on news. In a lot of cases, Free Keene has broken news in the community, for instance, before the Sentinel has gotten to it. And so it's one of the main concerns I have. If someone has done something, let's be specific and say exactly what those things are, because a lot of the things alleged that Free Keene, with quotes around it, has done hasn't actually been anybody involved.
You talk about the chalking in front of fat stuff, right? So if you're providing the chalk, I mean, just, you're providing chalk, you open the door for, it may not be anybody that is associated with you. It may be somebody that's associated with it, but no one will know that because you start the ball rolling by providing the chalk. Whether, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just a small matter. But you're sitting there saying that, it wasn't even somebody. But if the chalk's not provided, it's not going to get done, And so you put yourself out there by if somebody does something that has no association, you guys provided it. So you have to take a portion of the blame or the criticism that comes along with it. In my mind,
you could certainly say that.
Right?
Oh, well, you could, and that would be a more accurate statement, right? Would be to say that Garrett, who's a member of Free Keene, a blogger there, provided chalk, and other people chalked messages that some people found offensive. But again, the clarification is that it wasn't actually Garrett or anyone from Free Keene who chalked the offensive messages. Yeah. And then, of course, they use that as an excuse. A couple of the members of Stop Free Keene used that as an excuse to go and clean up smiley face chalkings that children made in Central Square. So, it's been blown out of proportion. And my main concern, I think, is the idea that Free Keene is sort of talked about as this entity, and all these people that have, and some people have said some nasty things online, but that's the nature of being online. On Facebook is that people can be anonymous. On blog post comments, they can be anonymous. And, when people are hiding behind the safety of their computers, they will say things. And, of course, just because someone's commenting on the Free Keene blog doesn't mean they're a member of Free Keene, in the same way that, if you're commenting in the Stop Free Keene group on Facebook, it also doesn't mean you agree with everything that the Stop Free Keene members do, right? So, like when Dan and Kay, Georgina, went out and cleaned up the square from the smiley faces last weekend, I would never say that Stop Free Keene supports, eliminating smiley faces. What's an accurate statement is that Dan and Kay, who are two members of Stop Free Keene, support that, but there may be people in Stop Free Keene who disagreed with that, who didn't support that. So I think it's important to get the terms straight. And then one other thing that I think is interesting about Stop Free Keene is that they don't allow for dissent. There's some rule on their blog that Josh created that says no Free Keene comments allowed. So anybody who they believe to be associated with Free Keene will be prohibited from commenting on their blog, whereas on the Free Keene blog, it's an open commenting system. Anybody can comment. As long as your comment's not racist or advocating violence or spam, it'll be allowed at Free Keene.
Have you guys set up any fake Facebook pages or websites to send people off in a different direction?
Not that I'm aware of, but certainly there have been examples of that in the past where people, and we don't know who they are. There was one that was created about one of the members of Stop Free Keene, and of course, Free Keene got the blame for it, even though there's no evidence whatsoever that it was anybody involved with Free Keene. Again, anybody can go and create a Facebook page. So,
have you guys targeted individuals within the Stop Free Keene?
Again, have you guys targeted? No, I've certainly not targeted anybody. Someone created some sort of a page, which was a very nasty page. I don't know of anybody who would do that personally, but and if somebody was doing that, they wouldn't necessarily come right out and admit that it was them.
Okay.
So, and for all I know, it was one of the members of Stop Free Keene who created that. I mean, you never know with these things.
Okay.
All right. Well, Ian, thank you very much for calling up. We have some other callers we want to get to, but thanks for calling and giving us the information. Appreciate it this morning. All right, very good. We'll go to another phone call here this morning, and thanks for calling Sound Off. Go right ahead. Hello, are you there?
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I actually, I'm a member and moderator on the Stop Free Keene page.
Yep.
And I wanted to call in to talk about some of the things that I just heard Ian say that were really confusing to me. So he's claiming that members of Stop Free Keene went and cleaned up these smiley faces that children had made. Now, the videos that I saw, some of which my husband took because he was there, and some of which Free Keene took because they filmed literally everything, show Garrett and other members chalking the smiley faces as members of Stop Free Keene are cleaning it up. I mean, one of the things, if you watch the video, that's absolutely ridiculous is that member Dan Georgina is attempting to clean the square. He's dumping a bucket of water on this chalk, and Garrett goes and sits right in the path of where Dan is dumping his water. And then when he unsurprisingly gets wet, he acts as if he's been assaulted and attacked. So for Ian to say that, these were children's drawings, that, these horrible members of Stop Free Keen just went and were erasing, it's just true. It's not true.
Can I just ask a question? Has there ever been any negative chalking that's aside from the smiley face? Because Ian was just saying that they do smiley faces, but prior to smiley faces, was there negative chalking that was going on?
At that particular time, I believe it was mostly smiley faces.
I'm talking before,
before
months.
Well, again, with the fat stuff, going back to that, there was a lot of vulgar language, a lot of obscenities. Members of Stop Free Keen went down and cleaned that up, and then it would appear again. These disgusting messages that I'm not going to repeat on the radio.
Okay.
But. So the smiley faces, they did the smiley faces. It was a very calculated move on their act because, they wrote offensive things and they knew we were justified in cleaning those up. So then they're just testing. The members of Free Keen like to they like to antagonize people and antagonize people and antagonize people, and then when people respond, they stand there like they didn't do anything, and that's really frustrating.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it here this morning. If you have a comment or question, you can give us a call at 357-1290 or email us at gpregent@wkbkradio.com. And we do have another phone call here this morning. We'll go right to the phones. Thanks for calling.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
I'm
very good.
How are you?
Good, thanks. I just wanted to comment about Free Staters. I don't particularly like this group of Free Staters in Keene. I think that they're rather dangerous. I think they're rather dangerous to the Free Stater cause and whole because of the extreme stand that they've taken. But I've also come to understand that they are, like a lot of groups, that they are a fringe fraction. There's a group of Free Staters in Ware who are particularly obnoxious, but they're not dangerous, in my opinion. But I've also come to find a Free Staters that are really decent people and are pretty level-headed. And Right to Know New Hampshire put 2 bills in this year, and one of our co-sponsors was a Free Stater. Comes to our meetings all the time. Very nice, respectable, reputable, reasonable person. So when you go out there and say these Free Staters, I would just caution people to say this that this is a fraction of it, or a faction of it, that it's not very measured in their ways.
We're losing you. I'm sorry. You're probably on a cell phone and you're getting out of range. But yes, your point well taken, and thank you for the call. I think I think that's a fine point. I think with the Free State Project and
but I think we've said it.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of things that is good, and I think it's just sometimes just the methods that sometimes upset people.
There's I think that what she was trying to say is that there's a Free State movement separate from, she said, fringe groups.
Right, considering Keene to be a fringe group.
Right, and that they have a real message and they want to do it in a way that makes sense is what I heard her saying.
Yeah,
so,
and
okay.
So, yeah, very good. Well, thank you for the call. Appreciate it here this morning. And again, if you have a comment or question, 357-1290 or email us at gpregent@wkbkradio.com. All right, we do have a phone call here this morning, so let's go to the phones. Thanks for calling Sound Off. Go right ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are you?
Hey, just curious. We got a whole hour from the Stop Free Keeners. Got their side of the story. Would you guys be willing to maybe have some of the Free Keeners on your show, or maybe the Robin Hooders?
Sure, yeah, we'd be more than... No problem.
How would they get a hold of you? Just call you up and...
You can call the station. I'm here Monday through Friday, and you can call me, or you can email me, too. And my email address is gpregent@wkbkradio.com. And you can get a hold of me that way. And yeah, like I said, we'd be more than happy to get some free keeners on. Not a problem at all.
It's not to say that it's Cohen. It's not to say that Ian hasn't been on the radio, right? I mean, he was on a few weeks ago with
he
Dan,
was on for
right?
10 minutes. He responded for a good couple minutes there. I mean,
yeah.
So,
and you guys are welcome anytime to call in.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah. So
Right,
get a hold of us, and we'll work something out. We'll find a time that works for both of us, and we'll get you guys on the show.
What would you think about having both parties on at the same time?
No.
Well, first of all, there's not enough room.
No, the studio isn't that big.
This isn't. We try to. You can sound off, but it's just not. Just going back and forth. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's not good radio. If radio and even TV, usually you hear one side maybe get a little bit of rebuttal, hear the other side get a rebuttal, and then, make up your own decision. I think the two groups, who may have some animosity towards each other in the studio would not be horribly good radio.
Right.
But like I said, feel free to give me a call here at the station during the week, and we'll work something out. We'll get you on for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, I do periodically watch the Stop Free Keene Facebook page, and I have to say that they speak of no violence, and I think the admins do a pretty good job of quieting that down. But I see an awful lot of very questionable comments that come from that group. And some of them, running free keeners out of the city, or pictures of Garrett with bullet crosshairs on his head. I mean, there's some questionable stuff coming from.
It's a very exactly. It's an emotional thing.
Does that tell you that the level of frustration that people have right now? Does that that means that maybe your message and your reputation, you need to think about how to change. Change it. You know what I'm saying? Does that concern you that people have that anger?
There have been changes, though. I mean, there was a time when there was rowdiness going on with the parking enforcers.
Mm-hmm.
That has quieted down. Once we got the message, that has quieted down a lot. So yeah, the activism is always evolving.
Yeah.
And I don't want to burn any bridges. I live here in the community.
Right.
I don't want to make enemies of the people who live here because they're my neighbors.
Right.
And I think that a lot of the activists who actually live here are all on board, and they have no intention of burning those bridges or poisoning the waters, if you will. So the activism is always evolving. I mean, the question is what do we do? I mean, if we see problems with the way the system is operating, what do we do? Do we go talk to city council members and maybe they'll do something about it, or maybe just take it for informational? I mean, we're trying all types of things.
I think you do all the above. You go out there and you voice a concern to the people that can make change. You do what you do, and that is a lot of you will run for positions within the city governments or on the school boards or whatever it may be. That's and you try to in Concord. If there's RSAs, a caller just called in a few seconds ago and said that there was some Free Staters that are state legislators that worked with other Democrats and Republicans to create a law, some law changes when it comes to right to know. So I mean, you do all that stuff. It's sometimes that and this some of the tactics sometimes people have not liked. The stuff that maybe I don't see as much anymore as it used to be, but the cameras in people's faces and people that may not be the people that you should be really talking to. The mayor, the city manager, the people, but it's just common people.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of that has been not great publicity for you guys. The whole incident with the crossing guard, where it looks like she's trying to hit you, but she's more flustered than she is anything else.
I don't know. I see that lady every single morning. She always looks flustered.
That's right.
Well, yeah.
Is she still doing it though? I thought she wasn't doing it.
Oh yeah, she's still out there. There's two of them.
Okay, is there two now? Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Sweetheart of a lady, though.
Yeah.
Sweetheart of a lady.
Well, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it. And again, like I said, feel free to give me a call at the station. We'll work something out, and we can do something. That's not a problem. We want to hear from everybody on Sound Off. Back to the phone lines here this morning, and go right ahead. You're on.
All in favor of that mission, Chris.
There you go.
Just a quick observation. I was really happy to hear, because it's such a bad habit, the young man that called just before the bottom of the hour, that there aren't too many free keeners that smoke cigarettes. But it was pretty obvious that he might have been smoking something.
Well, maybe not.
Great morning.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for the call. Maybe, some other kind of cigarette. We do have a call here. Another call. Man, a lot of calls here today. Hi, go right ahead.
How are you?
Hi. As a member of Stop Free Keen, I just want people to be aware that this is an evolving group, and it is in reaction to Free Keen's behavior. And I'm excited to see where it's going. We initially started out as an anti-group, but we realize it's because we care about our community, and I think people need to hear that. This is out of care and concern.
If your group
really
if your group comes out and helps change maybe some of the mannerisms and ways or philosophies of Free Keen, do you see that as a win? What I
really want to express is that we are not coming from any political stance. There may be people that are, anti-libertarian in our group, but that's not what our objective is. We are anti-bad behavior. We're tired of the behavior and the mistreatment of government employees, of citizens, the bullying, the targeting. They talk about free speech, but as soon as you oppose their ideas, they're the first ones to jump on oppressing you for it.
Okay.
So this is more, I just really want people to hear that we care about our community, and that's where we're coming from.
All right, well,
so as it evolves, I encourage the community to participate in bettering our community.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate that here this morning. I'd like to thank our guests here this morning from the Stop Free Keen movement. We had Andrea Whitcomb, Josh Erickson, and Alan Givitz. And also, too, I want to thank you for joining us this morning with your phone calls and messages and emails and conversation. Chris Coates and I will be back next week with another edition of Sound Off. Have a great weekend, everyone.